What do you expect me to do? Sleep alone? That one line, whispered by Elizabeth Taylor, didn't just light up gossip columns, it burned Hollywood's rulebook to ash. Because in that moment, she wasn't just the most beautiful woman in the world, she was the most dangerous. While other stars played by the studio's rules, Elizabeth lived by her own. Married 7 times, loved harder, fought louder, and broke every single taboo the golden age of Hollywood tried to cage her with. She wasn't supposed to survive the scandals, but she didn't just survive. She became the blueprint, the original influencer, the woman who turned her private chaos into public power. And now, decades later, she's back. A new docuseries, Elizabeth Taylor, Rebel Superstar, produced by Kim Kardashian, is rewriting her story. Taylor Swift just teased a new track named after her, and suddenly everyone's asking the same question: why does Elizabeth Taylor still own pop culture? Because her life wasn't just a love story, it was a revolution. This is the story of how Hollywood's most scandalous woman became its most timeless legend, and how her fire still burns through the biggest stars of today. It started with tragedy and temptation. Elizabeth Taylor had just lost her 3rd husband, film producer Mike Todd, the love of her life, in a tragic plane crash. She was only 26, a widow, a mother, and suddenly, alone. But Hollywood doesn't let its icons grieve in peace. As the press watched her every move, Elizabeth found comfort in the last place anyone expected: the arms of Eddie Fisher. There was just one problem. Eddie wasn't single. He was married to America's sweetheart, Debbie Reynolds. The headlines exploded. The betrayal was front-page news for months. Fan clubs were divided. Letters poured in calling her a homewrecker. And when reporters asked her to explain herself, she didn't flinch. She simply said, "What do you expect me to do? Sleep alone?" That one line changed everything. It wasn't just scandal, it was defiance. Elizabeth Taylor wasn't apologizing for her heart. She was rewriting what women in Hollywood were allowed to do with theirs. Overnight, she became the villain of America's love story, and the most talked about woman in the world. But she didn't hide. She wore the diamonds, showed up to premieres, smiled for every camera flash. Because to Elizabeth, the scandal wasn't her downfall, it was her power move. And behind all the chaos, another man was already watching her every move, the one who would soon change her life forever: Richard Burton. The world tried to cancel Elizabeth Taylor before cancel culture even had a name. They called her a husband stealer, a homewrecker, a scandal in heels. But instead of hiding, she doubled down. Every red carpet became a stage. Every affair a headline she turned into her own mythology. Hollywood had never seen a woman own her story like this, not as a victim, but as the director of her own legend. She wasn't America's sweetheart anymore. She was Hollywood's rebel queen. And in that rebellion, Elizabeth Taylor discovered something no one could ever take from her: control. She reinvented the meaning of fame. No longer the studio's puppet, she became her own brand before the word even existed. Then came Richard Burton, the man, the myth, the addiction. They met on the set of Cleopatra, the most expensive film ever made at the time. What happened next wasn't just a love story, it was detonation. They fought, kissed, and drank like the world was ending. They married twice, divorced twice, but never escaped each other's gravity. Together they were art and disaster, a beautiful mess wrapped in paparazzi flashbulbs. The Burtons became the original power couple, the Kardashians before the Kardashians. Every fight was front-page news. Every diamond he gave her was a declaration and an apology. But beneath the chaos was pure devotion. As one of her closest friends later revealed, her lover for life was Richard. Absolutely, no question. Even after the world moved on, She didn't. Richard died in 1984, and before he passed, he made one final call. He told a friend, "Tell Elizabeth I'll always love her, forever and ever." When that message reached her, she didn't cry publicly, but in her Bel Air home, she surrounded her bathtub with 20 framed photos, all of her and Richard. Every morning, every night, she bathed surrounded by the love that defined her life. Because Elizabeth Taylor never believed in endings, only love stories powerful enough to outlive their authors. But Elizabeth Taylor wasn't just a headline or a Hollywood rebel. In 1985, when most celebrities stayed silent, she co-founded AMFAR, one of the first major AIDS research foundations. She used her fame, the same fame that once scandalized America, to save lives. She raised millions, held the hands of patients the world refused to touch, and showed that glamour and compassion could coexist. Elizabeth Taylor turned her chaos into purpose, her pain into legacy, and her name into power that still echoes through every woman who refuses to apologize for being too much. Decades later, two new Taylors have picked up the crown. Kim Kardashian, executive producer of the new docu-series Elizabeth Taylor, Rebel Superstar, calls her the original influencer. And she's right. Elizabeth did what Kim does now, turn scandal into currency, vulnerability into empire. And then there's Taylor Swift. Her upcoming song, Elizabeth Taylor, from The Life of a Showgirl, pays tribute to the star's romantic chaos, her violet eyes, her diamond rings, and the courage to love out loud no matter the backlash. Different generations, same rebellion. As Elizabeth's son said, "She and my mom are kindred spirits, both the embodiment of female empowerment." Elizabeth Taylor didn't just live a life, she lived a saga. She broke hearts, broke rules, and broke through an industry built to silence women like her. And for every scandal, every headline, every whispered judgment, she answered with another diamond, another laugh, another unforgettable quote. "I was always a rebel." She never asked for permission. She was the permission. And that's why, long after the camera stopped rolling, Elizabeth Taylor still owns Hollywood's heart. Because she wasn't just a superstar, she was a rebel, and her legacy still burns in every woman who dares to be unapologetic. Diamonds fade, legends don't.